Hey one, hey all, and welcome back to Chapter 6 of our look at our custom Combiner War style Liokaiser. Now, a lot of people took the box set from Liokaiser and they ended up doing their own custom work on it. Some people ended up doing a lot of 3D printing, which is fine. Some people ended up 3D printing certain parts and painting them and adding them on, which is fine. Some people used something like the Hound mold, for example, and customized that into Jallguar, and again, using extra parts, attached like an upper torso being Liokaiser. Some people just opted to take something like the Power of the Primes Starscream and turn that into Liokaiser and leave Jallguar out. Some people turned that Power of the Primes Starscream into Liokaiser and used like a little beachcomber to make Jallguar, and all of those are viable options. So what did I do? Well, I used a version of a torso that I thought was one of the strongest torsos, that being this guy. It is technically the Power of the Primes Inferno, but it's that same mold that was used for Bruticus. It's the same mold that was used for Hotspot. And I done a ton of work on this guy, even though there's still something that I'd like to do with him that I haven't really been able to find a solution to yet. I also took the liberty of giving him his Breastmaster partner. So we're going to look at my custom Jallguar and his Breastmaster partner in the latest GotBot True review. Hey one, hey all, welcome back to the channel. I am your host, your most humble host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. Special shout out if you're here for the first time. Please like, comment, share, of course subscribe, and while you're at it, that's right, hit that notification bell please, because it lets you know when content of all kinds goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, Transformers Collectors, NL, the Autobot family, and have a look for me everywhere across social media. And this is my custom Decepticon, Breast Force member Jallguar and his Jaguar breast partner. And it's based on what I think is one of the stronger torso molds coming out of Combiner Wars. It is the mold that was used for Bruticus, it was used for Defensor, it was used for, to less success I might add, it was used for the Victorion. But I overall like this, and when I saw the big long truck of Inferno, I said, hey, you know what? I could definitely use that. Now, to be fair, I wish that there was a custom head to replace Inferno's. I did custom paint on Inferno's head, and while there are custom heads that exist, they really seem to only be made, that I know of anyway, to fit on the Combiner Wars, say, Hound Swindle mold to make Jallguar Deluxe, or they are made to fit on something like the Legends class Beachcomber mold from Power of the Primes. Nothing that is really intended to fit the Leader or Voyager class version that some fans might want to go with. Nevertheless, I was able to sort of paint up the face acceptably. I know, I'm grasping at straws for this to be an acceptable face repaint. But I think the rest of it turned out well. A lot of gloss black. When I do the conversion, it is a more stylized version of like his weapon cannon truck thing. The blasters that kind of came with him I sort of built on when it comes to the whole like main section, and there was a lot of silver and black added to this guy. It was definitely a labor of love to get him to look like this, but I'm really happy with how it turned out overall, in vehicle mode, in robot mode, and in torso mode. Anyway, without any further ado, let's head over to the table and take a closer look at these lads. And now here in Chapter 6 we take a look at Jallguar and of course his partner Jaguarbreast. Now there are many different options for representations of this character the fans have come up with. Some people have opted to use a Voyager Power of the Primes, Starscream as their Leozak, and something along the lines of Legends class Beachcomber to represent this guy. Some people have opted to use the Hound Swindled Combiner Wars mold, Swindle Combiner Wars mold, with a 3D printed head to represent this character. I'm not exactly, I've heard of a configuration where two deluxes are used as the torso. I have no idea how they go together. I have heard that that is accomplished with like a kind of a 3D printed framework, we'll say. Again, if you want to add those extra parts, all viable, excellent, fantastic options. If you just want to be able to do something stock without having to add a bunch of extra parts, then perhaps your best option for a representation of Jallguar would be the like Onslaught, Hotspot, Power of the Primes Inferno mold. And in fact, this is the Power of the Primes Inferno mold. And it's, you know, honestly, I think it's a good mold. I think it's a decent base for a combiner. I think that there are issues with how the legs collapse on earlier uses of the mold that were rectified with this Power of the Primes version. This, of course, is a customized Inferno. And I looked at Inferno back in episode, I believe it was 421, and he had a great score. Like, he had a 7 force paint depth, he had a 9 for his articulation, and he had a 10 force transformation. Well, you know what? The transformation is still going to be a 10 because he makes a fine truck and he makes a fine torso, even though the truck this time around is a bit stylized. The articulation is excellent, if I'm being perfectly honest. We do have his partner on the front of him there. So at this point we can say he has a head that goes left and right, not really up and down, a little wiggle up and down. We have shoulders that are nice, ratcheting. They can go all the way around if you get the back stuff out of the way. They can go way out to the side. We have a bicep swivel. We have a elbow. We don't have a waist, but honestly, I find that you can score some excellent, great dynamic poses because of the fact he has a backpack. As egregious as that might seem, it gives him like a tripod type of stabilizing leg. We do have legs. Getting this out. That can go well out to the side. They can go back if you mind to get that out of the way. They can go back. They can go forward. Deep knee over 90 degrees. Thigh swivel. We don't have ankle tilt, but I think that that is helped or mitigated by the extra backpack stand. And now for the elephant in the room. Yes, the guy does have a very big backpack, and I have it made bigger because of combiner feet pieces that are here and the blasters that come with Inferno are slightly painted, and like again they're kind of used here as the over-the-top cannons that this guy should have. There's a lot going on the back. But surprisingly, because it's on a hinge, you can move it and it really doesn't adversely affect articulation. You can, of course, remove Jaguar breast and just have a look like this. So, if we're going to say that the transformation is still a 10, that the articulation is still a 9, even though it probably shouldn't be, because I know people will gripe and say he doesn't have an ankle, he doesn't have a wrist swivel, he doesn't have a waist, but he does have this third leg, really, which helps score excellent dynamic poses. That's why he's kind of scoring high. In this case, I think the kibble on the back is a help. His look, here's where things get stylized. I'm gonna say it's a 7 because it's largely done correctly. Like, we have the purple on the chest, even though that purple should be on the Breastmaster, but here we have the purple on the chest, and you can still see it when the Breastmaster is attached. We do have the largely like silver chest. We have the silver biceps and thighs. We have the black like lower shins and the black like forearms and shoulders. The head. The head is the stock head. I actually considered replacing the head with something 3D printed. However, the only options I've seen would fit a Legends class figure, too small for this, and a deluxe class, which I think again is too small for this. So I did have to kind of put up with the stock head and do the best I could with it. It is not admittedly ideal, and as such, he's going to get overall about a 7. I did add orange up here on the shoulder and yellow down here. We'll see that in his vehicle mode when we get there, and it kind of adds to the accuracy of that a little bit more. All gloss paints, all were applied in thin layers, several layers, and then a final layer was done that was really kind of watered down a little bit. Well, actually I used a damp brush. There you go, just a slightly damp brush, and went over it all to reduce things like paint streaks. There are areas that do scrape a little bit, unfortunately, so I'm having to sort of mitigate that a bit and live with it for the sake of the integrity of the character and the ability to do transformations. But I like the way that he turned out. His vehicle mode, because we've already seen the conversion before, we don't have to go through, but it does look like this. And indeed, this is big, this is pretty ugly, but you know what? It's a cannon truck thing. Now you can get 3D printed parts that fit on over the front here to kind of give like a better canopy look, and you can kind of replace a lot of this with 3D printed parts, largely ones that peg in, I believe, on the side of the leg, and they can come off and go in on the top if you are so inclined. I didn't want to do that, so what I did is I put Power of the Prime's feet pieces here, the ones that came with Inferno. I added his blasters here with the like red tips on them to mimic the red missiles. Yes, there should be 4 of them instead of 2, but what do you want? I mean, I work with what I have. It looks like a really weird amalgamation between Onslaught and Inferno. In fact, I would argue that the Onslaught mold is probably the better base version of this mold to use for the character, but at the time it was just far easier and more cost effective for me to get this version. So that's what I went with, and this is what I customized, and I like it. Now, some people have said to me, hey, GotBot, why did you leave the red fenders? Oh, by the way, I think you can also pop off these tires and get oversized tires as well. So there's a lot of upgrade options for this guy. Now, a lot of people have asked me, hey, why did you leave the red fenders and not paint them? I left them because I liked it. I just wanted something to break up the stark black color, if I'm being perfectly honest. The head up here is the Liokaiser head that was on Desirous. I removed it from Desirous and I took the, we might as well say Defensor head off of this guy. Now here's the thing, the way they attach is significantly different. The Liokaiser head just was like a straight, I guess, peg with a hole in it that a screw went up through. So it could turn left and right, but it was not a ball peg or anything like that. The head of Defensor was on a ball peg. So once I removed both heads, I realized, oh no, they don't attach the same way. So this Liokaiser head had to have a ball peg built on it first. I done that with Bondic. I had to build the ball peg on it first and then insert it into the opening that was originally held by the head of Defensor. Hope that makes sense. So I had to build the ball peg and then I put the Liokaiser head in there. As such, while it can move up and down, left and right, it is a tight fit, so I try not to move it very much. So in conversion, rather than really go through turning it around and potentially kind of busting my work, I opted to simply just fold the whole thing down. If you like a Liokaiser face sticking out, you could leave this piece forward and flatten this out a bit and have the face sticking out. Or if you are brave enough, you could, of course, at least turn the head around. Because this is the Liokaiser head, it does not flip open like the Defensor head does to kind of hide it. So it needs to stay as kind of one solid piece. So you have to work with kind of what you have. Nevertheless, it's still functional, it still rolls, it is still fine as this mold ever was in vehicle mode. Now, that leaves us with one mode for this guy, and it is the torso mode. And that looks like And yes, indeed, here we have the torso mode. It looks very familiar at this point because it should look like the Defensor or the Bruticus body, basically, or I guess Victorion. The head of Liokaiser, I removed it. It had like a kind of a collar around it. It no longer has that collar around it. The like head over part is now green or a tealy color rather than the black that it was. So it, you know, the head at least looks more like Liokaiser. The torso at this point, we're still obviously missing a very important part and a very important look because we don't have a Liozak, but we can get an idea of how this guy is going to go together. That being said, we still have one last thing to kind of look at here. And nothing much to see here. We have another version of the Siege Ravage mold. This one is largely painted with a lot of extra silver, plus we have the addition of pink for his paws. The laser beak that came with this set was repainted as just Buzzsaw. So we had one set of Ravage and Laserbeak that was used to make 2 of these chest minions. We had a second set of Ravage and Laserbeak that was used to make another one of the chest minions and to make Hell Buzzsaw to go with Logos Prime. We have a third version of Ravage here. That Laserbeak became just regular Buzzsaw to go with a Soundwave. That goes with the collection of one of the Scraplets. And like nothing has been wasted here, but yet none of them are being used for Ravage or Laserbeak, at least not at this point. 3 Ravages, all as different Breastmasters. 3 Laserbeaks, all as different characters other than Laserbeak. Go figure, right? Nothing new here. It's about a 6, same transformation, same articulation. I suppose it's only fair, since we've done it with the other ones, that we kind of clue things out here by looking at the whole team so far. And of course, we can see the team as it currently is now, consisting of 5 of our 6 members. All of these guys have their chest minion partners. I like how this is coming together. I like the look of this, but of course we still have one left. In terms of Jallguar and his partner, we could say that the overall average should again be about a 7, because we had an 8 really for Jallguar. We have about a 6 again because it's that Ravage mold, but honestly, I like the look of this, and I think I'm going to give it an 8, even though that's probably pushing it, and part of that is indeed subjective. That being said, there are 3D pieces that you could also get if you were so inclined, in order to make this vehicle mode more reminiscent of his original G1 version. At this point, everything that you see here is stock. It's all things that were just, or are just, readily available for like retail purchase. Like, it's not a bunch of extra add-on pieces or anything. While all that is there, and certainly great options, and you can go into it, this is something at this point that you can accomplish without really having to add anything extra other than paint applications. And maybe a little wire and a little like Bondic or plastic weld here or there. However, if you're a customizer, you might have those things on hand already. Nevertheless, I like how the team is coming together. This feels right to me, and we only have one individual left to go. The leader of the team, Liozak, and of course he'll come up next time, and then we'll see all of these guys in their glorious combined mode. And here we are once again, and looking at Jaguarbreast first. It obviously is the Siege Ravage mold again. It's a very versatile mold. In this case, I pretty much just had to do a straight up repaint of it to kind of get it to be animation accurate, or as animation accurate as possible. There was a ton of paint work done on the Inferno mold. Solid mold. I like it. I even like, and I know it has a huge backpack, but I kind of forgive it because it works like a good third stabilizing leg and actually sort of helps the articulation of this guy. Even because it's on a hinge and you can move the hinge however you want. It doesn't, as big as it is, it doesn't feel obtrusive to me, though I know it will for some people. The addition of the stock Liokaiser head was more of a challenge because of the fact that this head just had that kind of straight screw going up into it, and this is a ball joint section, so I had to build an entire ball joint. And of course that begs the question, well, what happened to the head that was here? That's used for something else. Well, we're going to talk about that another time, but it did go used. In which case I had to actually drill a hole up through that ball joint and shave the ball joint down. There was a lot of work to interchange these heads, but I'm happy with the result, and I'm happy that I was able to kind of paint this head like a tealy color. There are custom Liokaiser heads, but I'm happy with the stock Liokaiser head. I just needed it to be able to fit right. At the end of the day, this is as versatile and functional as it ever was because I didn't change any of that. All I really did was change the look of the colors. Functionally, works just as great as ever. And if you'd never liked the mold, well, nothing here is going to change your mind. If you do like the mold, well, this is another great usage of it. So now we have our 4 limbs. We have a main torso with the head of Liokaiser. We even have 5 of the breast partners and the extra added little lad of Ion Scythe. Not even sure how you say it. That only leaves us with 1 team member to go. And it's one that really should make a part of the torso, and he will. That final individual team member is of course going to be the ever popular Leozak, and he will be our focus next time around. But for now, let me know what you think about these guys and how you think it worked out. I think it's a fair representation for the character. At least it works for me, and it's one of several ideas that many customizers have used. I'd love to hear what your ideas would be. You know, I appreciate you dropping by and give me some of your extremely valuable time. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, there is a donate link down in the description. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. It's so very appreciated. Don't ever forget that somehow, some way, each and every day, you do make a difference. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit for the next chapter in our ongoing saga here, Inside the Videos.